Hi guys, it's Blackie and Bear, and this is the old Wayz chapter 4. And in this one we're going to talk about how you need to get started now. Anybody that listens to the news reports or whatever 5 minutes is going to know that food shortages, stuff like that are happening right now. They're going to be getting worse. And we're not going to get into the why, and please don't even worry about commenting. We all know, but that's not the scope of what we're going for here. It's the fact that you need to do something now to protect you and your family. And so what Bear and I were talking about is setting up an emergency larder. But before we get into that, there's a couple of little bit of housekeeping things that Bear wants to talk about from the last video, so go ahead.
In the last video, we were talking about a book called The Prairie Traveler, and I got my authors mixed up. William B. Marcy was a real guy. He was a West Point graduate and a Mexican War veteran who left the Army and went to New York and became a politician. The guy that wrote the book, The Prairie Traveler, was actually Randolph B. Marcy, Captain of Engineers. He was also a Mexico veteran, but he would stay in the military for the rest of his career. But if you're looking for that book, it is Randolph B. Marcy. That's the guy you need to look up. It's a fascinating read. It really is. And like I said in the last one, a lot of the whole book is dated, okay? But it can show you how to go from point A to point B under adverse conditions and not die in the process. That's the value of the book. And I think it was chapter 2, somebody in the comments made a suggestion of a generator for your house. If you can get one, get one. But two things. Well, we'll start with two. Don't run it inside. Okay? You run it inside, carbon monoxide builds up, there's no point in having a generator. Secondly, when you plug your generator in, you need a double-ended pigtail like this one that I built. They're very simple. Plug it into the generator, plug it into a house socket or to the end of a heavy extension cord, but plug it into your house. Flip your main switch off, the main breaker. Open it up so it's not connected. Because if you do, you're just you're pumping your electricity into the city grid. Won't do you any good.
I knew somebody that several years ago we had a major hurricane, and we were going to have power out for a couple days. And he had done that. He had bought a big generator and was sure this was going to cure all his problems. And he got home and he plugged it right in, he fired up, and then nothing came on. And so he thought that the generator was malfunctioning. And so he fussed with it. What he hadn't done is he hadn't flipped that main breaker switch to stop the power flowing out of his house into the power poles and into everybody else. So he's trying to power the neighborhood.
His neighbors thanked him.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's never going to power anything. You never even know it. You just think it's not generating. But it's like you got a water hose and you're expecting to fill up a swimming pool, but you're not going in the swimming pool, you're in the parking lot. So you're just laying in the parking lot. You have to flip that circuit breaker. Something that you need to be aware of at your home, and this is a good thing to understand, especially down here in the South, we're very prone to it. Rodents like squirrels, mice, or whatever will get into your home in the winter, or down here, we have it worse in the summer, really, where they'll get in your attic and they'll go to non-wires and they'll start a fire. If you suspect you have an electrical fire, okay, one of the first things you should do on the outside of your house, where that meter is, there's usually a panel that you open up and there's a great big switch at the top, like a light switch for the house. Flip that off, because how an electrical short happens and causes a fire, for many people that don't understand, The eye on your stove is just an electrical short. How that metal turns red and gets hot, well, that's what's happened. The squirrel has gnawed two wires and the wires have crossed. And so that heat is now heating that wire up red hot in your wall. And so it becomes like a branding iron that sets things on fire. When I kill the power, it stops that and now it will cool down. So it doesn't spread the fire as bad. So if you think you've got an electrical fire starting, the number one thing to do is run outside and flip that switch right now. It's one of those things you need to know how to turn off the gas to your house. You need to know how to turn off the water to your house. You need to know how to turn off the power to your house. Do you have a water wrench where you can go out to your meter and turn it off? Well, why would I need to know that, Blackie? In case of a pipe burst, you'd flood your house before a plumber got there. You got to be able to turn the water off to keep it from flooding your house. Being able to turn off gas. If you suspect gas leak, if I come in the kitchen, I think I smell gas. Number one, open up all the doors and windows, get anybody out of the house, turn off the gas, and call a professional to come find out. Don't go walking around with a lighter trying to figure out where it's at. What was it? 10, 12 years ago, that house that blew up in Avon, Alabama. Remember that?
Vaguely.
Couple woke up, the wife said she got up and smelt gas. And so she woke her husband up and they went all over the house, which was a double wide trailer, trying to find the gas leak. And without thinking about it, she sat down on the couch and went to light a cigarette. And when she hit the spark, it went boom and blew all four walls and the roof off the building. Both of them survived because they were at the epicenter of the explosion and the force went out away from them. But it blew the building completely to pieces around them. I know they had hearing loss.
I would imagine so.
And they had some singeing, but I think they had like a first-degree burn, and that was it, but it just blew away from them. So, if you lit a cigarette in a house, you're looking for a gas tank. Rednecks, gotta love them. Anything else, sir?
I'm sure there is, but I will take it up in episode 5.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to emergency food supply. Now, what I recommend is this. You're going to need something that I can leave home with if I need to. So what we're going to talk about is bucket. These are handy, easily portable, got a lot of uses beyond what we're going to talk about. But being able to pick it up, so I recommend buckets with lids. Now, food grade, people are going to tell you about food grade. If I'm putting something raw in here like rice or beans, and I'm like taking it out of a container and pouring it in here, yes, I want a food grade bucket. If I'm taking packaged food that's still in its food safe packet, I don't need to. A regular bucket is fine. A hardware store bucket is fine for this. Okay? So what you need to do is you need to figure how many people do you have in the house. We want 1 week's worth of food doing 2 meals a day. Okay? So let's look at simple and cheap. Okay? I'm going to recommend for this first set, you're going to do it with just add water meals. Okay? And I've mentioned in many of my videos, Bear Creek, that's this company. I get this at Walmart in the grocery section, Bear Creek, and there's Darn Good Chili, and there's a couple others. This one is a cheddar and broccoli soup. Now it makes 8 servings, and that's a ½ gallon of soup. Okay? That's just add water. So I can take a canteen cup and boil water. I just put X amount of water in, about the volume that I'd want to eat. ½ a cup, whatever, 3/4 cup. I bring it to a boil, and once it's at a good rolling boil, I shake in soup and stir it until it gets the right consistency, like you'd make grits or whatever. And then I stop. Put that back. Now I've got a cup of this thick cheddar soup. I can also make this thick and pour it over potatoes instead of just using it as a soup. I can make it like a gravy and put it over something. It's something that I've got a lot of uses with. And that was like $3. I think it's $3.29 right now. 96 cents. This package of Mahatma yellow rice mix, already seasoned. Now this tells you to add olive oil to it to make it a little slicker. Always read the ingredients, and if it requires something like that, leave it with it, okay? You ain't got to, it'll still be yellow rice if I just boil it, okay? But for 96 cents, there's enough to feed probably 2 people a meal in rice. Now you can, of course, augment any of this, but we're going cheap, guys. 94 cents. The Knorr, kind of like this was great value, extra noodle, chicken and noodle soup. Packets of it. Again, perfect size, just throw it in a canteen cup or whatever. In the lunch aisles, now let's talk about meat. Go to the canned meat aisle and look around. This is a Star-Kissed tuna that's honey barbecue, and it does not taste like tuna, it tastes like barbecue. I can combine that with the rice. I can eat it by itself. Now this is already cooked, ready to eat. I can just tear this off and squeeze it without anything else and eat it right out of that package. Those packages of Spam like this, there's several other things like that. That means I ain't even got to cook it. And like I've talked about in the heat of the summer, I don't want to raise my core temperature. So if I can eat something like this relatively warm, like just stick it in the sun or something to warm it up a little so it's not out of a cooler or something, and not raise my core temperature, I'd do it. So this would be cheap and easy. You're going to see these a lot, mostly in the camping aisle. I recommend this for a car. One of these and something, yeah, because it's a lot of calories and it's individual bars that hard as a brick, but when you break it open and air gets to it, it's actually really, really firm, but I just tear it up with my fingers and eat it. Yes, you can bite it, like, think like thick fudge or something, but it's a food bar. A lot of long things, 2,400 calories. So that's a lot in an emergency situation where 2 bars would get you through a day. No, I wouldn't be happy and I would be hungry, but I could survive, right? Drinks. These instant drink packets, these sachets like this, of different flavors and things. Teas, grapes, whatever. Already got the sweetener in it. All I got to do is dump it in water and shake it up.
And they're great.
They are good.
Those are really, really good, and they're really, really affordable.
They're cheap, they're affordable. Now, for a treat to throw in there, bacon flavored Spam. I know this isn't great, but it does have bacon flavor. I can slice it thin and fry it, and therefore add eggs or whatever else I got to give a little bit of a breakfast flavor. I can make sandwiches out of this. I can take chunks of this and brown it and mix it with rice, with instant potatoes, whatever. And instant potatoes, of course, add into this. 2 or 3 different kinds. And something that I want to point out were these. Now these are a little more expensive, but for what we're talking, okay, think about this a minute. These things are basically MREs. You know, like this one's a Salisbury steak. That one is chicken with mashed potatoes and gravy, and this is a chili mac. There's like 8 or 10, 12 variations of this. And this is actually an MRE because it's a meal ready to eat. It is fully cooked. You don't have to do anything but heat it up. I can eat it cold. Won't be as palatable. But whenever I'm having to move out, let's say, and it's summertime, if I take this, pull this paper off of it and just leave the plastic, and I set it up on the dash in the sun where the sun comes to the windshield, will it heat it up? Yeah. Have you ever left your sunglasses in there and pick it up? It's amazing how hot those things are, right? Leave it up there 45 minutes to an hour, you got a hot meal out of that. You can immersion heat these without a microwave. All that means is standing up in a canteen cup or a pot of boiling water. Give it about 10 minutes, turn it over, and put the other half back in for 5. It's nice and piping hot. It's ready to go, and all you've done is it's 95% weight there is food, as opposed to the package weighs nothing. So I can use muddy water out of with a coffee can and some sort of fire source to heat it up, and that's a hot meal of good variety right there. What I suggest you do is pick how many people do you have in the house that you got to feed? Okay, we said just for an experiment 4. So you got to do it for a week. So that's going to be 2 meals a day. That's going to be 14 meals times 4. Real quick, you see it starts adding up. What can I do that will create servings enough for multiple people out of one package? It does not have to be that great expense. This is emergency rations. That bucket and that, something that I can keep in the pantry to have a larder for emergency food. And if I have to evacuate because of whatever reason, natural disaster or whatever, and we've got to go, I got it in a bucket that I can grab, and just set it in the back of the car, and I know I got my food sources for at least a week. It may take more than one bucket, whatever your situation is. Now, once you've got a bucket created, you've got something to work with for an emergency. Now, the next month, whenever you go, and I figure for probably $50, really, I can generate enough food to do that, because a lot of it's going to be ramen, rice, heat and eat, something like this, a couple of packages or something thrown in to break the monotony, spice it up, things I can combine together, etc.
It's like we said earlier, happiness is not mandatory, survival is.
Yeah.
And with these buckets, the one advantage to a food grade bucket versus just your average Joe bucket on the shelf is you can store water in a food grade bucket, and then you can dip your canteen cup in it, heat it up, purify it, and have your food. Another thing you might consider is having a bucket for everybody in the family with their name on it. Okay? If you're preparing to evacuate from a hurricane, then you'll have your bucket, you will have your food. Stick a gallon of water in the bottom of the bucket and fill in around it, because you're gonna need a gallon of water. You're gonna need the water. Okay? Put a gallon of water in the bottom of the bucket and fill in around it with the food.
Or plan on having a 5-gallon jerry can to put in the back of the car to care for the whole group.
Yes.
Yes.
But we want to be fast and mobile in some circumstances. The town that I live in the space of about 10 years, had 5 floods. We're on 2 rivers, and we know about getting out of town quickly if you need to. Hurricanes, we're not in a position here so much to evacuate from a hurricane because we're 100 miles inland. Generally, it's people coming from the coast to us. But these things are fantastic. And when you're out shopping, for those of you who have kids, involve them. Let them get their little packets of peanut butter or whatever, but let them get some toys, color books, crayons.
Something that doesn't require power. That can
books.
amuse them a little
Yes.
bit.
Pencils, the puzzle books, ball, something that they can put in there that will be entertaining, because you might not always have your electricity. Yeah, you've got your car charger for your cell phone, but you may not have a tower to connect to.
And you may not be able to afford the gas to just sit there and run to charge a phone.
Exactly.
Gas may be ridiculously expensive.
Even more ridiculous than it is now.
Right, and you've got to get from from A to B to family members further inland or whatever, for whatever reason. Like I said, we're not talking about doom and gloom here.
Yes.
It's just, you have a spare tire on a car for a reason, right?
Here's your spare tire for you.
That's your spare tire for you, for food, because I can sleep in a car if I got no choice.
Oh yeah.
I can carry my camping bushcraft gear for me to be able to set up a camp. That's hardline stuff. The food is the expendable stuff that I've got to have prepared. Talking about including the kids, take $10, just $10, okay, for each one of the kids, and say, okay, here's $10. You pick $10 worth of whatever to go in your bucket. I'm betting they're going to pick something like M&Ms or whatever. Make sure they know we're not putting it in right. We're not eating it today. It's going in the bucket. But even that type stuff, because I'm assuming that this isn't the only food you got in the world. And so when you've got to move, you've also got the other stuff in the house, the chips, the dips, the stuff that doesn't require refrigeration, that I'm going to grab. Or I've got a cooler and I'm going to yank out of my refrigerator. That just extends this even more so. So that when I use up that, or the ice has run out and we just got to eat lunch meat, it's going to go bad, then this stuff can then be the fallback, because it gives you the most important thing, time. See, it does not have to be a $100 bucket that you buy online that's full of oatmeal, mashed potatoes, rice, and macaroni and cheese.
Right.
There ain't $20 worth of food in that bucket. Realistically, when you sit there and read the label and start looking at it, you realize this is the dollar store mashed potatoes. This is the dollar store rice. And dollar stores are great assets, because I can go in there and they have smaller cans of, let's say, chili and stuff like that, where it's not a full-size can, smaller, which is great when I'm trying to augment this stuff. I got bulk items like, how about pastas and spaghetti? Things like that. I want stuff I can heat and eat in a quick manner, like the chilies, like the soups, etc.
You can buy store brand of this for about half of what this cost.
Yeah.
So you can double your product with the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Which is something that should be considered, because you're going to have, you're not going to be able to get to your money as readily in a situation like that, an evacuation situation. So you need to get as much as you can for the money you have, but you also need to remember that you've got to take some money with you. Because, like I said, you may not always have your
debit card,
your debit machine may not be working. But I think everybody still takes green money.
Yeah. It's a good idea to have $20 worth of quarters.
Yes.
What I do is went and got a small change purse, and just put two $10 rolls of quarters, just dump them in there. You need to air up a tire on a car, it's going to run off quarters. Vending machines run off of quarters. Quarters are the everything. So I got $20 in the vehicle of quarters. So in my day-to-day operations, okay, I've got that I can take care of. I don't know how many times that I've had a tire with a slow leak that it's not bad enough I got to change it right now. If I just air it up, I'll get another 2 days out of it before I got to air it up again. And I'm going from A to B, and I ain't got a quarter on me. And you go inside and you say, hey, I need change to run the machine out here, and they say, that's not us. We don't, you know. And you got to end up spending to get $2 in quarters, you know, carry quarters. They don't have pay phones anymore.
No.
You know, we're old enough, we remember pay phones, guys.
Funny story. We both have truck driving in our backgrounds. You ever driven the Delaware Turnpike?
Yes.
They don't take anything but change.
Nothing but change.
I was up there going through, and I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was scrounging every nook and cranny in the cab of my truck trying to get up enough coins to toss in that little basket that they've got and get the gate to open up so I could go through.
Yeah.
I managed to do it, but boy, Heidi, it was...
You're sitting there sweating it.
It was tough there for a minute.
Yeah, things like that that are unexpected. So, for what we're talking about right now, it would be better part of wisdom, okay, to have a bucket and some sort of larder that's mobile. Yes, we've already talked about the long-term stuff, about canning and about setting up food, etc. And that is great for home, and that is part of this. But I want a mobile thing I can grab. Now, once you buy one of these rices, try it out. If I like it, maybe it's not my favorite in the world, but yeah, I can eat it. It goes in the bucket. You know, because, yeah, okay, I can eat it. If I try it and I hate this crap, do not buy it to go in the bucket. Because you don't want to be stuck in a bad situation and now you're stuck with food you can't stand. So whatever goes in that bucket has to be something that you can find at least, it's okay, right? The soup and stuff, try it out. Now, I made up my bucket. I know how much my bucket costs in food for what we're talking, okay? Every 6 months, eat the bucket. Come up with another bucket. Take all this food, put it into my regular larder for the kids coming home from school to eat or whatever, and put fresh back in here and eat this stuff. Don't leave it in here for 2 years. Eat this stuff. So you learn that the chili mac and this is pretty good. I like this. Add a little extra ketchup and it's really good. Okay, well I'll add a couple packets of ketchup to this and put it in there.
Another thing, the things that you don't really care for, they're trade goods. You can trade them. There may be somebody traveling with you that really likes honey barbecue tuna.
Yeah.
Okay? You give me that, you know.
I'll swap you this
We'll
for
swap.
that. It
Done
becomes
deal.
barter.
Everybody's happy.
And we've not dealt on barter. We're going to talk about barter in a future episode. But I know of a guy that he left Lower Miami. His wife and 3 kids. All the money they had in the world was $112. That was it. He put the wife and 2 kids in the back seat, and then he filled up the trunk with anything he thought was halfway valuable. And they started evacuating out of Florida because we had some major hurricanes coming. And luckily it was during a week. And so as he went along, when he started getting low on money, he would find a small town that had a pawn shop. And he'd start pulling stuff out of the trunk and hawk it. He was at a truck stop, and this guy also evacuating, didn't have any, and most places they were hitting because it was a mass evacuation because of a big hurricane coming. Everybody's out of gas. Everybody's out of something to eat. All the vending machines are empty. And this one guy had money, but he didn't have anything to eat. And he had extra food. And he said, I'll trade you that for $10. Sold, well, barter system. So the stuff that he had that he had brought from home that him and his wife really didn't care for, that somebody had given him, he was able to barter and turn that into gas money to get them into North Georgia. That's where they were going, to North Georgia. But you can barter through a lot of situations. Most people are willing to trade if they see a value, but we'll deal with that later when we're getting into barter.
Yeah. There's also a couple of things. We've centered mostly on the food, okay? We're guys, that's just what we do.
Yeah, food.
But we need to consider other things. A 3-pack of soap. Drop it in. My daughter's going to the beach with the church youth group tomorrow, and she needed towels and bath cloth and that kind of stuff. So we went to the big box store and got her what she needed. But, you know, things like the soap, the bath cloth, the towels, kids are dirt magnets. You know,
Wet
guys,
ones.
guys, we are dirt magnets, trust me. I worked in the garden all day yesterday and I looked like Pigpen from Peanuts. But, you know, you need something to clean up with. A travel toothbrush and toothpaste. Ladies, you have certain requirements that we don't. Don't forget to prepare for those.
Do you have little ones that you got to have diapers,
Yes.
wet ones, baby food, baby formula? Right now, baby formula is never about impossible to find.
But here's a cool thing about this. Before there was such a thing as baby formula, you know, the powdered formula, when we were kids, a little can of pet milk and a bottle of sterile water or Pedialyte mixed together into a milk
Yeah.
will substitute.
Canned condensed milk, you
Yeah.
can mix up with water and it will get you through. No, it is not
Do-
the perfect nutrition, but you can feed a baby with it.
Or evaporated milk. Now, condensed milk and evaporated milk are different things, but you know the difference. So I don't have to. We probably don't have to educate you to that. But yes, you need to think about things like that. That's why I brought up the color crayons and the puzzle books and things like that. As simple as it sounds, don't forget your toilet paper. You know, make up. You know, if you've got 4 people in your home, have 4 buckets. You know, yes, you can feed 4 people out of 1 bucket for several days, but you can personalize a bucket for each person and write their name on top of it. You know, that way you don't grab, he doesn't grab Mrs. Blackie's bucket.
And she loves such and such pasta and I can't stand it and I end up with her bucket.
Exactly.
That way we got, like I said, let the kid have some say in what's going in it, you yourself. You can't put everything into a bucket. Of course, we're still expecting you to have your bushcraft gear, your etc. because of that. But like I said, a couple of rolls of toilet paper, a simple garden trowel, or better yet, how about one of them old U.S. Army folding shovels?
Yeah.
So I can dig a cat trench if I've got to.
You mentioned something that I wanted to emphasize. Hard candy, M&Ms, things like that are not susceptible to heat as much as something else can be lifesavers. Diabetics whose blood sugar has gone too low are treated with hard candy a lot. But if you have a child who is fussy
And is used to having food every
you
time
know,
they turn around?
and is looking to be comforted for whatever reason, give them the piece of candy. Get one of those little packs of M&Ms, the little
Like Halloween candy.
like Halloween candy.
Yeah.
Give them just a pack of M&Ms, and they will change drastically. Their demeanor will go from Tasmanian devil to, little angel.
The whole thing is, you know what your situation is. We can't do it for you.
Right.
But you need to have a plan. And we've talked about how the long-term goal of being able to plant and grow your own food, being able to process your own meat, how to find sources of meat, how to do that stuff. That also needs to be tempered with the idea of, for whatever reason, you may need to move from where you're at in a hurry for a relatively short amount of time due to natural disaster.
Right. Generally, these are, I think the Red Cross or somebody is, they say make these a 72-hour bucket.
Yeah, and that's, if you want to get started out, you just don't think, Blackie, I can't afford that, 72 hours. Something beats nothing.
Yes.
Okay.
And generally, in a situation like we're talking about, within 72 hours, there's going to be relief. You're going to have people like Samaritan's Purse or the Red Cross or the United
FEMA or whatever.
Yeah, the United Methodist Committee on Relief, UMCOR, will come in with their trailers full of food and a kitchen to cook in. I have eaten out of a Red Cross truck during hurricanes, during floods. I've done it. The food is not bad. Is it Antoine's in New Orleans? Absolutely not. But will it fill a hollow space? Absolutely.
Yep, you will get something to eat.
Yeah, like we said, happiness is not mandatory, but surviving is.
And so to keep it from being so miserable,
Yeah.
you're already in a stressful situation. You didn't want to do this. I don't want to do it. He don't want to do it. I really don't want to have to move out of here, or I'm facing whatever this is. It's just, it was a bad month. I didn't make a lot of money this month, and we had those bills we had to pay, so we were kind of being slim on the groceries, and then this hits.
Yes.
And now we're going to have to shelter in place for the next 72 hours or whatever as this major problem works through. And there ain't enough food in the house. That's what this is. We have to move out of here because we got a Cat 5 hurricane coming, and it's a bullseye on us. By the time it gets to us, it'll be a 3,
Yeah.
which would be bad. Yes, I would move north a little bit for that, but you need to be something I can be mobile with. That's where this comes in.
If you go back to episode 1, I asked Blackie the question, when did Noah build the ark?
Before it went to raining.
This is your ark.
Yeah, it ain't gonna be great, but it's something.
It's not great. Get you a cheap wool blanket, a wool blend blanket, cap it off on top, put the lid on it, set it in the closet. Don't forget a blanket, because in natural disasters, particularly in flooding, the movement of the water, Blackie can back me up. You can go to the back of my yard and look down and see one of our rivers. Okay, it's within 150 feet of the back of my house, but it's 100 feet below me. Now, I say that to say this: the movement of that water is conductive, and it will suck the warmth out of the air. When you get closer to water, particularly moving water, your air temperature can drop as much as 10, 12, 15 degrees.
That's the reason you don't want to camp next to water in the winter.
Yeah. Don't forget your basic necessities: food, shelter, water.
Have something. It's got to be beyond. We try to teach the woodsman skill, but you got to remember, and that was something we were talking about, that Prairie Home Companion. What I found interesting with it was he talked about how they made pemmican in blocks and then put it in the floor of the wagon and put boards on top of it and stacked cargo on it. Well, it was, they're going to be gone from civilization for 2 to 3 months, where you're going to shove off in St. Louis, and there is only very scattered outposts till they got to the West Coast. So they ain't going to be, oh, we're just going to stop today and get something to eat. You might not see a roof. I remember one guy talked about they left St. Louis, and he said, I did not see a building with a roof for 2 months.
There's that funny line from the movie Red River where the cowboys are walking into the cattle agent's office, and they're doing this. And he says, what are you doing? He says, we hadn't been under a roof in 6 months.
Yeah.
It happens. If you look at the grocery list for the wagons that Blackie's referring to, they're packing 500 pounds of bacon.
Yeah.
They're packing 400 pounds of flour, 100 pounds of salt, 200 pounds of coffee, 200 pounds of sugar. That's a lot of groceries, but they remembered to put the pemmican underneath it.
For the backup when all this is gone.
Yeah, because as you consume it, this is getting smaller. Okay, what's riding on top amongst all the furniture? Every time you take a bite, you're down.
Yeah.
Every time you fix a meal, you're down. You have cut down on your available resources. Underneath was the pemmican.
That was Aesop's Fables. When I was a boy, I remember someone read me some of Aesop's Fables. And for those of you that probably today don't know what I'm talking about, it's an ancient text from Greece and stuff like that. But what it was, Aesop was a slave. And so his master had commanded him and I think 5 or 6 others to carry these big loads, these backpack loads, say, on this journey from from the master's house to this other house, which was like a 10-day trip. Well, by far the biggest and heaviest bundle was the food. And so Aesop volunteered to carry the food.
I remember that story.
And everybody else was, oh, heck yeah, you can tow it. Yeah. Every time they ate, Aesop's weight got less. Theirs didn't lose an ounce. And on the last 2 days, the bag was nearly empty and Aesop was walking unencumbered and the other guys were still struggling on theirs because he was smart enough to realize that the food got lighter every day.
If you can find the books, they make excellent stories, and they're all morality stories. There's a what's the word I'm looking for? There's a good result from every story.
A moral from
Thank you.
From every story.
There's a moral for every story.
And that was his, and that one, like, the food gets lighter every day. So he volunteered to carry the heaviest load. In the first couple of days, yeah, it was bad. But 3/4 of the trip, he was equal or less, and by the end of it, he was much less. Mm-hmm. And we want, in our growth of becoming independent, we need, at home, we need to have, I would say, a month's worth of food at least. That's a big investment, guys. So this isn't something you're going to get overnight. It's too big of a financial burden. But like we said, you buy a couple extra here, a couple extra there. You find something on sale, you buy a couple extra. You want to get at home about a month's worth of food, okay?
That's just a starter.
That's a starter.
That's just a good goal to work toward to start your process.
Once you get the month, then you start working on a 6 months. Mm-hmm. Once you get your 6 months, then you look at a year. Well, by then, you're in a rotational cycle.
You've built the habit.
You've got the habit now, and you're rotating it. So when tomatoes are in season and everybody at your workplace is going, you want some tomatoes? I got, heck yeah, bring me in tomatoes. And you've learned how to can them and put them up, or turn them into sauce or whatever and put that up. And then in the dead of winter, when nobody's growing tomatoes and suddenly the supermarket can't get them, and you've got 100 quarts of tomatoes, so you can make all the pasta you want. That's independent then. No matter what happens around me, I'm good. And that's one of the things about the early guys that we're talking about. When you went to these little farmhouses, there was food everywhere. The kitchen walls were covered in shelves usually. There was then probably a little room that was nothing but shelves. There's a smokehouse out back that's for smoking meat. A lot of times there was a cellar or something that was for keeping stuff cool in the summer.
Your car warranty is about to expire.
Yeah, my warranty is about to expire again. And but it wasn't that big a burden because they were constantly adding and constantly rotating. It would be devastating to try to just start from scratch and do it. But the point is, you start small and you just keep adding. Well, what we were trying to talk about today is having the mobile security set. This is my backup when I gotta move. I've got food in case I don't have it. It'd be great if I was able to then turn around and have a couple of coolers where I could pull lunch meat, everything right out of the refrigerator, fill up a couple of coolers, have everything in the pantry, fill up another big box, have all the survival gear in the car, and then not need this.
But I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah, because hungry is coming one way or the other. You know, I can say, you know, it took, my granddaddy said, and we'll finish on this, because I don't want to drag us out terrible long, but my granddaddy said, and I have found it very true in life, he said it took an optimist to invent the airplane. It took a pessimist to invent the parachute. Because this sucker might break down while we're up here. Do you think about that? We might have to get out of it.
Your granddaddy was a very wise man.
He was a very wise man. So I don't want to have to use this. But having it is like that parachute. It's like having that spare tire on that car. Get this, so you got that. So now if I got the food I can pull out to carry, great. If I don't, I got this as a backup. This then will rotate in, like I say, every 6 months, and the bucket gets refilled. So this food is in constant rotation. It's never out of date. It's already ready to go. So if I got nothing else, I can fall back to this. Anything else, sir?
I think we've covered all the points for today.
All right, next time we'll be talking about barter. So that'll give Bear plenty of time to be thinking about it. But we'll talk about how to barter and how to swap and exchange and things like that. Thank you very much for the support, guys. Thank you for watching the videos. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a comment down there. Tell us what you're looking for and things that you'd like to expand into in your growth.
And please comment.
Yeah, please comment. Tell us what you think.
Give us feedback. You know, we're just two old guys doing our thing. Give us feedback. Let us know what you're doing. Let us know suggestions and recommendations you have, because a lot of people go through the comments and read them, and you may help somebody out. Mm-hmm. You may become part of their support structure by offering your piece of advice.
And we've got the experience. Ask the question. Now's the time to do it, because when we're gone, the generation after us doesn't have what we had. They didn't come up in that where everybody had larders and canning and butchering hogs and everything. We're kind of the end of that, and if you're wanting to learn that,
now's the time.
Now's the time to ask, guys. We ain't getting any younger. And,
speak for yourself.
And as we disappear, that knowledge is lost, and you're going to have to earn it the hard way to reconstitute it when it's gone. You know, trust me, it's a learning curve. Let us tell you like this. This makes the learning curve a lot easier.
Yes, it does not have to be a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Build your art before it starts raining.
Yeah. Because when you're stuck in a situation and you ain't got no food, because, like I said, it was a bad month. I didn't make so much. We had that big bill, and we were running a little low on groceries, and suddenly we're stuck, and it's not oh, I want to go. It's I got to go.
Beans and rice are cheap.
And every store is sold out of everything, and everybody in your neck of the woods is having to move too because of whatever. Yeah, you wish you had a bucket.
Several.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, it's Blackie and Bear. Have a great day, guys.